The ocean spirit dances today to abundance and joy and to eternal peace.
See, this is what we're hoping for. This is part of our hope. Not only that we are members of the elect with fruits meet for repentance, like John the Baptist said, but from our low estate, because we've been brought low, even though we have this knowledge, we have this truth. Remember what it said in Revelation. I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. Why are we rich? Because we're rich in faith. We have this knowledge. So our hope is at our last end, we're going to be increased. Okay? And if you ask me, the greatest riches right now is to be delivered by Yahushua, is to get that new body that the Apostle Paul spoke about in 1 Corinthians 15th chapter, to get that. Get that new body where we'll never be sick, we'll be immortals, like it said in 1 Corinthians 15, to be delivered from the coming destruction, and to be a part of Yahushua's cabinet in the next kingdom. Okay, those are the real riches right now. That's what we want to get. Because if you get that, you got everything. I mean, you got everything. Okay, so our sights are set a lot higher than this present world. All right. As it is written, the fashion of this world shall pass away. We are individuals of vision. And the scripture said where an individual lacks vision, he perishes. Okay? So we can see the future. And we hope that we're beginning with the elect.
This entire universe belongs to you, my son.
And we're going to fully have power over the elements. The way we're going to build things, the ingenuity, the creativity. All right? Being able to build with the vibration of sound, being able to move boulders with our mind, the kingdom will be far out, man. Our water systems, our irrigation systems, clean water, clean air, can only imagine it, man. But it's not a fantasy, it's going to be a reality. But such a massive reality that it's going to be surreal, okay? This kingdom that's coming is going to be surreal, man. Okay? And the Heavenly Father is only doing this for his people, but he's doing it really to magnify his name. And he's going to put his name on us forever. Okay? We're going to be named after Yahweh Bashem Yahushua forever. Okay? But it's going to be a manifest token that we are the people of the Heavenly Father. All right? Streets of gold. The foundational stones of the kingdom. Made of all manner of precious stones. It's all evidence that we are the people of the Heavenly Father. He hasn't done this for anyone else. Okay? And we'll be able to branch out into these different distant galaxies within the universe. Okay? We'll have some insight into the Father's house, which is the universe, which is unlimited. We're gonna have unlimited access to the Heavenly Father's house. All right? And you can't limit the Heavenly Father. You hope for elect out there, you'll have access to the chariots. You'll have access to these different planets within these galaxies, within the universe. Or maybe Yahweh through Yahushua finds you so well pleasing that he decides to give you your own galaxy. Once again, you can't limit Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, man. Okay? Everything within our kingdom is going to raise your vibration, raise your spirit. Okay? That's the kingdom that we're looking forward to, man. Constant building, constant healing, constant praising Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. So with that, I want to give all praises to our power, our Father, Kahalayla, Alahaya Nawa, Abanawa, Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Rakakwadash. Double honor unto our elder apostles and elder bishops, a great millstone, still well. Peace to blessed house. Stay the elect. Stay strong, Yasharala.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessings and salutation to the hope elect out there pushing his word and truth and their sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakwadash. Pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hope elect, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. All right. And what I want to get into this morning, what we'll get into is, with this morning news and prophecy, you have tests, smart cities, that's up and running. All right. US, all right. United States embarrassment, and more. Okay. And all these things, all right, link, okay, with prophecy. All these things are explained, via the prophecies of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, as we're tasked, to look out, into the earth and see what's going on in real time, and filter these things through the scriptures. Well, we have to understand, all the circumstances, that's required for the end, to come. Well, these things are manifest. As it says in 2nd Ezra, the 9th chapter, the end is manifest, man. Okay, and as we go into all aspects of prophecy, the war, the uproars of the people, the civil unrest, okay, and also, the culture, even the culture of this society, shows us that we're at the end. Okay, and in the book of 2nd Timothy, the 3rd chapter, the Apostle Paul in the Spirit, he goes into, all right, the culture of the end times. Okay, and there's no doubt that we're, within that culture. Okay, this is that culture, that society, just like during the time of the flood. Okay, there was a certain culture in the earth. Okay, of rebellion. Okay, of violence. When you go into it, you go into the descendants of Cain, played a part in it. Okay, which we know the spirit, that's Esau. Okay, you go into the time of Sodom and Gomorrah. What did you have? You had lewdness, okay, just extremely, sexual deviant, behavior, okay, before the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. And you have that same culture of today, okay? That's the culture, that's the norm of this society today, you see? So as we see, the cultures, of those previous time periods before great destruction, before great judgment, well, we seen that same culture, the culture of Sodom and Gomorrah and the culture before the flood, okay, have manifested today, and these things will be an indicator of the times we're in, okay, the culture itself. So when you go to 2nd Timothy 3:1, it said, but understand this, that in the last days, dangerous times of great stress and trouble. Okay, and you look at people today, there's an uptick in people, complaining about how stressed out they are. People are ready to crash out, which is creating an atmosphere, of civil unrest. Okay, it says of great stress and trouble will come, difficult days, all right, that will be hard to bear. And see, these things are going to increase. You know, it's going to go from, you know, people just complaining on the internet to people just crashing out real time. Okay, because of how hard, you know, it is going to bear, and people are being priced out of living. You know, it's to the point that certain people can't work enough hours, all right, just to maintain, you know, the basics, the essentials of life, man. Okay, and these things are going to get harder and harder to bear, man, because the true inflation ain't really just hit like that. When the inflation go hyper, okay, when they really take the lid off the economy and let this thing just go haywire, okay, we're going to see, you know, difficult times that are hard to bear. Okay, verse 2, it says, for people will be lovers of self, narcissistic. Okay, and that's, you know, the norm of this society. You know, self-worship. You know, everyone's a celebrity, everyone's a main character in their own little world. Okay, with the mindset that everything revolves around them. You know, people only have their self-interest in mind. Okay, as it says, self-focus, lovers of money, impelled by greed. And look at what, you know, our people, you know, look at what our people, you know, are doing to stay relevant and for money. Okay, look at what Jake is on, man. Even guys that call themselves teachers and leaders, look at what these men. You have men, you know, that was hard-bodied debaters. Okay, when it came to salvation only for Israel, all right, to teaching the Gentiles, man, the actual heathen can make it. You know, that was their brand, was to debate, you know, Christians about salvation for Israel only, and they completely did a 180. You know, those guys Genesis, man. Okay, and you see what their leader did, Sakari did, you know, but it was all impelled by greed. You know, and that's just a common Jake. You know, our people live to go viral. Our people, you know, live, you know, everybody want to be the next influencer. Okay, this next major influencer. You see what our people are doing. You know, Jake. You know, you have Jake that sacrificed his daughter not too long ago. Okay, for the sake of coming up in the influence world. That's because our people are impelled by greed. You know, they love this wealth. You know, that Esau is able to print. Okay, here it is. Esau is able to print wealth, and these niggas are willing to sacrifice their loved ones for it, man. Okay, completely become degenerate and immoral and a goddamn clown. Okay, because they're impelled by greed. Well, this is the culture, you know, the Apostle Paul was speaking of that will be going on in the end time. All right, boastful. Okay, everybody, you know, super tough, super smart. Everybody just got everything figured out. Boastful, arrogant, revilers, disobedience to parents, ungrateful, unholy, and profane, and they will be unloving, devoid of natural human affection. Man, yeah, man, it's and so people, everybody's becoming so dark that life doesn't matter. You know, life doesn't matter to this society. You see, you got a culture where Jake could tell you, let's meet up and die. Okay, you got people, you know what they call social awkward. You got this term called being social awkward. Okay, to where it's awkward to have a authentic conversation in this society. You know, with people in real time, because people are just so used to interacting, you know, through the virtual world, the internet, social media. Okay, that it's awkward to have a normal conversation, an authentic conversation with someone, you know, face to face, you know, and that's them being what, devoid of natural human affection. That's supposed to be a natural instinct to be able to socialize, okay, and be intellectual amongst your peers, okay. But in this society, like I said, where everyone's a celebrity, everyone's proud, everyone's arrogant, okay. You see, a conversation, okay, is an awkward thing. All right, it says callous, all right, and humane, irreconcilable, which means unfixable, man. You know, this society is to the point where it's irreparable, and that's why the only thing left is major judgment. Okay, this society has reached a point of being repairable to it's at the point of major judgment, man. third, they can't be repaired. Okay, that's why the scriptures, you know, the Lord tells us not even to waste time on niggas, man. Okay, not to try to convince this untoward. The scripture says, separate yourself from this untoward generation. Untoward goes into unpredictable, man. Okay, because the enchantments of Esau, okay, the psychological warfare of Esau has these people all over the goddamn place, man. Okay, it says irreconcilable, malicious gossips, devoid of self-control, intemperate, immoral, brutal, haters of good, man. And this is this society in a nutshell. Okay, no one, self-control is mocked, discipline is mocked, okay, restraint is mocked, patience is mocked. Okay, this is a culture that rewards crash out behavior. Okay, malicious gossip, you know, social media is all about, you know, just gossip. You know, people are obsessed with celebrity gossip, neighborhood gossip, nigga gossip, or whatever, man. Okay, and you go to verse 4, and it says, traitors, reckless, conceited, all right, lovers of sensual pleasure rather than lovers of the Most High, man. You know, which goes back to the spirit of Sodom and Gomorrah. You know, this is just a culture of just a bunch of random hunching, man. When you really look at this society, it's just a culture of casual hookup, random hunching, you know, drugs, the nightlife, chasing the bag, scheming, even a scammer. You know, a scammer is now, you know, is honored. You can be a scammer and you have a honorary, okay, position, okay. You look there with honor in this society just to be a scammer, okay. Showing you that, you know, people have reached an all-time low, especially our people, man. Okay. So when you go, let's see, I got this video I want to get into. So let's go here real quick. I got this. Yeah, so this gets into it, you know, when it goes into how, you know, social media, you know, plays a major part, you know, and it was intentional the way, you know, that Esau destroyed people's attention span, all right, destroyed people, you know, critical thinking, okay, and he made this a culture where you have a bunch of confident idiots, okay. That's why you can get on social media and not know what the hell you're talking about, but sound confident and get a following, man. Okay, you can be an influencer just because you sound confident and not know what the hell you're talking about, man. Okay, so let's matter of fact, let's start here, and then we'll jump.
Somewhere right now, a person is confidently explaining a topic they learned 40 seconds ago. And somewhere else, an actual expert with 30 years of study is being politely ignored. This is not a coincidence. This is the current operating system of public discourse. This is the fiscal historian. Today, we are examining something genuinely measurable and genuinely strange. For most of the 20th century, IQ scores climbed steadily, decade after decade. Researchers named this the Flynn effect, roughly 3 points gained per decade, reliably. Better nutrition, better education, better everything. The line simply went up. Then, quietly, starting around the mid-1990s, the line stopped going up. In several countries, it started going down. Norway, Denmark, Finland, France, the Netherlands. Scientists call this the reverse Flynn effect, a phrase that sounds like a magic trick gone wrong. It is not a magic trick. It is measured, peer-reviewed, and genuinely well documented. Here's the important twist before anyone reaches for pitchforks. Genetics did not change. Researchers are explicit about this. The reversal is environmental, not biological, not innate. Something in the modern environment is actively producing worse measured outcomes. Picture your brain as a genuinely excellent smartphone running increasingly terrible software. The hardware is fine. The operating system installed on top of it is the actual problem. Dr. Jared Cooney Horvath testified before the U.S. Senate specifically about this in January. His written testimony stated plainly that cognitive development has stalled across much of the world. He pointed directly at classroom screen use as a leading, measurable contributing factor. Teenagers now spend almost half of their entire waking hours looking at a...
Now, who created, you know, this operational programming? that controls the minds of the masses. Okay, the elites, man. Okay, witches and warlocks. As they investigate, the what you call neurology. The study of the mind. Okay, going into the inward thought of this man is deep. Okay, and people, have intentionally been dumbed down. And he said it started in the 90s where you started to see the decline. Well, what happened in the 90s? You had the emergence of gangster rap. Okay, food started being more processed. Okay, more chemicals within the foods. All right, the people that ran, big tobacco. Okay, which got the people addicted to, cigarettes and tobacco products. They began to take over the food industry and run the same, all right, addictive, all right, practices within the food industry to get people addicted to, the chemicals in the food. Okay, all these things started to happen. Okay, and then you get to the 90s. Okay, and then you just see a decline in people's critical thinking. Okay, that's where it began. All right, so by the time you get to the 2000s, and then you get to the social media area, man, and things just extremely accelerated. Social media was a major tool, that this devil used, to really degenerate, okay, this society. It make people vain, okay, like I say, lewd, twisted, rebellious. Rebellion became real cute when social media was about, because of the clout, the instant clout you could get, all right, for being a degenerate, for being rebellion, for being new, okay, for having no morals, okay, for pushing, left-hand agendas. You can get instant clout, okay, and that's where, immorality, okay, that's where, lewdness, these things took off, okay, because attention sends off the same dopamines as money. Getting 100,000 views, is like getting, a lump sum of money to the brain. And these devils study these things like this, and they use this and they weaponize this to degenerate the masses and dumb people down. Okay. And then, the children are exposed to so much screen time, because as soon as they're, able to, operate a tablet 3 or 4, most parents, okay, let the tablet, raise the children. You see? And, the hands-on, the mother, being the first teacher, okay, and then, if it's a son, it goes on with the father to learn actual skills, okay, the natural development, okay, of a society has gone out the window. To this devil has intervened with this technology, and this generation, okay, is already, prepped for technocracy, man. They're already inseparable from these machines. Okay, most people are already inseparable from this technology, man. So the next phase is just to get it, under their skin. You see? So let's play this some more.
Screen. Half of being awake, staring at a rectangle. That number alone deserves a moment of silence. International testing backs this up considerably. PISA scores dropped significantly worldwide in 2022. Mathematics, reading, and science all declined across OECD countries simultaneously. The decline began quietly around the mid-2000s. Then it genuinely accelerated after 2010. Reading scores specifically tell an even more pointed story. Pearl's testing found a similar pattern. Fourth graders in most participating countries scored lower in 2021 than they did in 2016. Years of hard-won educational progress, quietly, measurably, unwound in a single testing cycle. And here's the detail that should genuinely stop you mid-scroll for a second. Students spending more time on digital devices scored lower on reading comprehension specifically. This held true even after researchers controlled for income and family background entirely. It was not simply that poorer households used more screens. The pattern held across income levels. Screens themselves, specifically, correlate with weaker reading outcomes, directly, measurably. German researchers tracked this with genuine scientific precision between 2012 and 2022. Figural reasoning ability dropped by roughly 5 IQ points per decade in that specific window, a measurable, significant decline in an entire population over just 10 years. There's a second data set worth mentioning before moving to the cultural half properly. Sleep researchers have documented declining average sleep duration among teenagers specifically. Reduced sleep correlates strongly with impaired memory consolidation and reasoning ability. A brain deprived of adequate rest performs measurably worse on nearly every cognitive test available. Screens again appear directly implicated. Blue light exposure before bed delays natural sleep onset. Late night scrolling is not simply a wasted hour. It is actively borrowing against tomorrow's cognition. Combine reduced sleep, reduced deep reading, and increased fragmented attention into a single equation. The specific combination produces exactly the kind of measurable decline researchers are now documenting. None of these factors alone would necessarily be catastrophic. Together, they compound considerably. This is worth sitting with for a moment before moving to the considerably funnier cultural section. Now, before this turns into a full-blown panic, the researchers themselves urge caution properly. One psychologist offered a genuinely useful analogy about ceiling effects worth repeating here. The line cannot go up forever.
Now, let's get this, and then he also mentions, deep reading. No one's doing any deep reading. That means undisturbed reading, and that's why the scriptures say, all right, what's this? 2 Timothy 2:15, I believe. And also, if a brother can get Revelation 1:3. Now, you go here, this is the hopeful elect 3, Sirach 10:3 says, an unwise king destroyeth his people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited. Okay? So Esau Edom is an unwise king that destroyed his people, man, because he runs a kingdom where most people, all right, well, people have to believe a lie for his kingdom to function. You see, people have to be zombified and easily, all right, influenced for his kingdom to function. Especially as he wants to segue to a new world order where he needs people dumbed down as much as possible, man. Okay? He needs people stupefied, man. Okay? Short attention span. That's why this devil is able to do wickedness, and people, like, in real time, people's minds begin to operate like a TikTok app. Okay? Like YouTube shorts. Okay? That's why this devil has done so much wickedness, and then it's forgotten about so quickly, and it's on to the next thing. You look at even like the whole, because if they wouldn't have brought up the whole Fauci thing, people wouldn't even be tripping about, the juice like that. Like, this man really turned the earth to a death camp and made it mandatory. Okay? And people moved on like it was nothing. Even now with the Fauci thing, next week, that's not even going to be a discussion. It's going to be opening week of college football. Okay? People's mind are just programmed to jump from one thing to another where they can never focus on anything. And the main thing, he does that so you can't focus on him. Okay? So you can't connect the dots with him. So most people's minds just jump from this event to that event to this celebrity gossip to this sporting incident to, the food shortage, the lettuce, the blueberries. Okay? They might release Diddy, some more Epstein files will come out. So people's mind are beginning to operate just like the TikTok app in short spurts. Okay? But sustaining nothing, just a bunch of short spurts and sustaining nothing, man. And these things are intentionally done. Okay? Let's go here. This is the brother you call Hopeful 144. Daniel 12:4 says, but thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. All right. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased, man. Okay. So knowledge has increased. But the thing is, knowledge that's not filtered, okay, through scripture, through truth, can be dangerous, man, can be a weapon, because it's intentional misinformation, it's intentional disinformation, it's intentional, distractions and things that don't mean nothing that this devil just pushes out there, man. Okay. And like What he said, when you remove, okay, deep reading, and deep reading is undisturbed reading, when you're actually sitting down, undisturbed, undistracted, and you're reading, which, hey, because the scriptures tell us that we should tap into that, and that's our culture anyway. Our forefathers will read, our forefathers, they did a lot of reading, man, and we know we in the hustle and bustle of this world, man, but a daily reading, is, is healing us, man, okay, from this microwave society, man. Okay, so even just reading, and then we're reading the scriptures, and we have the Holy Spirit, man. So that's a tool against this microwave society, man. Okay, and the cognitive diminishment, okay, of this of social media. Okay, so let's get this, and then we'll jump up in this video. This is brother Yashima, tribe of Judah. Revelation 1:3 says, "Blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of this prophecy, and keepeth the things which are written, for the time is at hand." Yeah, so blessed is he that readeth, and as we're reading, we're tapping in, like it's really exercising our mind, that undisturbed reading and getting in the scriptures, man, supping with Yahweh Shai as much as possible, man. Okay, it's keeping us sharpened in the spirit. Okay, because we're dealing with a dark, zombified, lethargic society, man. Okay, they don't have a clue of what's going on and can be pretty much told anything. Okay, well, now, man, as we're tapped into the spirit, as we're tapped into reading, hey, this reading has many benefits, man. 2 Timothy 2:15, it says, "Study to show thyself approved." This is brother servants of Yahweh Shai 144. It says, "Study." You see that? That's that deep reading. That's that undisturbed reading. Tapping in. Checking in, going back to that meeting, making them meetings with Yahweh Shai, man. Okay, it says, "Study to show thyself approved unto the Most High, a workman that needed not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth," man. Blessed is he that readeth, and study to make thyself approved, man, to show thyself approved, man. And that combats, the cognitive diminishment, okay, that this devil is throwing out there to the masses, man. Okay, doom scrolling is they're doing major damage, man. Which we in the flesh, but then hey, we gotta apply discipline, man. You easily get caught up into that, but then hey, apply discipline, man. We in a time where we gotta elevate in discipline. Now, let's play this and jump up a little bit. And he's gonna go into the culture behind, how confident idiots, okay, are the influences of the masses, okay.
With effortful engagement. Scrolling passively through short clips differs considerably from solving a genuinely challenging puzzle. The brain, it turns out, is considerably more particular about what simply counts as exercise. Now let's examine anti-intellectualism specifically, because it deserves proper historical context.
Want to help us test it out?
Yeah, let's do it.
What's your favorite color?
Lavender.
Favorite animal?
Distrust of experts is not, strictly speaking, a brand new invention of the smartphone era. Historians can point to anti-intellectual currents running through many previous decades and centuries. What genuinely is new is the specific scale and speed at which that distrust now spreads. A single viral clip mocking an expert can reach more people in an hour than a lecture reaches in years. The relative volume has shifted dramatically. Skepticism used to be a minority, local sentiment. Now it can become a coordinated, global, algorithmically boosted phenomenon within a single afternoon. And here is the specific mechanism that makes this considerably worse than simple ignorance alone. The Dunning-Kruger effect describes a genuinely well-documented cognitive bias worth naming properly. People with limited knowledge in a specific area frequently overestimate their own competence in it. Genuine experts, by contrast, are frequently more aware of exactly how much remains uncertain. This produces a specifically cruel mismatch in public confidence between the two groups. The person who knows the least often sounds the most certain. The expert sounds appropriately cautious. On camera, cautious nuance reads as weakness, loud certainty reads as strength. Viewers respond accordingly. Public platforms increasingly reward fame itself as a stand-in credential for genuine expertise. A celebrity's casual medical opinion frequently reaches more people than an actual physician's careful one, not because the celebrity has relevant training, because the celebrity already has an audience built in. Audience size has quietly become mistaken for authority. These remain, stubbornly, different things. Education systems themselves deserve honest scrutiny here because they have not stood still either. Curriculum design in several countries has shifted towards standardized testing preparation specifically, rather than toward the kind of open-ended, sustained critical thinking that builds genuine reasoning. Teaching to a specific test produces students who are skilled at that specific test format narrowly. It does not necessarily produce students who can transfer reasonability. Education have specifically flagged this narrowing as a contributing factor worth naming. Schools optimizing heavily for measurable short-term metrics may be inadvertently sacrificing something broader. The specific skill of sitting with a genuinely difficult, unfamiliar problem without immediate guidance is precisely the skill that standardized, heavily structured testing environments tend to reward least. This is not a simple story of lazy students or failing teachers. It is a systemic incentive problem, structurally similar, in fact, to the algorithm problem already discussed regarding social platforms. Both systems optimize for an easily measurable proxy. Neither system optimizes for the harder to measure thing. That proxy chasing pattern, appearing consistently across completely separate institutions, is genuinely revealing. For the honest complication now, because certainty here would be dishonest, and this channel avoids that.
So, most people, and that's why Esau, because then Esau, you can sell out with Esau with these influencers, and he can just, give you followers, he can prop you up, as if you know what the hell you're talking about. Okay. And you pushing his agenda. Okay. And people have this herd mentality where they see followers and they see comments, and it's easy for them to follow the herd. And these celebrities are going to be at the forefront of pushing this C-hip. Okay, these celebrities and these influencers. I show speed. Okay, they're going to chip that nigga up. Okay, then they're going to be running faster, doing all type of backflips. Okay, you're going to have the comment board going crazy. They might teach that nigga a new language and act like, Neuralink, taught them. Don't tell them what they're gonna do, man. It's gonna be full of gimmicks, and you see, that's why. Let's get a couple of these scriptures that brothers got. Okay. This is the brother Yahweh, the hopeful leg 3, 2 Corinthians 2:11. At least Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices, man. And we've been given his wisdom to be put on game. All right, well, this devil, we understand what this devil is up to, man. You see, the scriptures have put us on game, and the Lord has given us a ministry of prophets where you have brothers going into so much and exposing so much, man, that we should be on point in the spirit. Okay, and not falling, to the traps, that the devil is setting for the masses, man. And it's important, like I say, to make time for reading, man, to step back from the digital world for a moment, and make time for reading. Okay. Like I said, I got to step back from the laptop and, these phones and just get out in nature, man. And, I got to have a set time to read, man, because, this digital world, is meant, to dumb you down. Okay. It's what they call rage bait, have you emotional. Okay. Or they had that the red pill rage, you growling at the nigga woman, you looking at red pill all day, man. It's it's a lot going on in the digital world, man. We have to be balanced. The brother said discipline and balance. This is Sirach 38:24. This is the brother GMS out of one Hawaii. Said the wisdom of a learned man cometh by opportunity of leisure, and he that have little business shall become wise, man. So, spending all this time, wasting all this time doom scrolling, caught up in all these, gossip circles, the back and forth between, you know, what these niggas got going on in the celebrity world, okay, can really, you know, dumb you down, man. You know, have you operate on the base level, you see. But nah, man, the scriptures, all right, a simple, you know, daily reading, you know, is putting us on the level, man. You know, it's giving us a perspective, okay, above the madness, man. And it has it to where we can make sense of the madness, okay, and not to be entangled in it, okay. So let's play a little bit more of this. Jump a little more.
Appears most pronounced across Europe and North America specifically. Several developed scientific conclusion yet. The honest version of this video acknowledges that uncertainty rather than overselling total collapse. A quick word on the specific global picture too, because the decline is not distributed evenly at all. Researchers note the reverse effect appears most pronounced across Europe and North America specifically. Several developing nations, particularly across parts of sub-Saharan Africa, show a different pattern. Ongoing improvements in nutrition and expanded education access are still producing modest, positive gains. This matters considerably because it undermines any lazy narrative about universal, inevitable decline. The pattern correlates specifically with wealthy, heavily digitized societies, not humanity as a whole, which strengthens the environmental explanation considerably, rather than any biological or genetic one. If the decline were purely genetic, it would not track this specifically with a nation's digital saturation.
If you're running your own business, you need Symphony.
The geography of the decline is itself a genuinely strong piece of supporting evidence for the theory. So what precisely is worth doing about any of this? Because diagnosis alone.
So what they're saying is they're seeing the increase of, you know, people, what you call cognitive diminishment, more so in these Western countries, these wealthy first world countries that are saturated with digital technology, okay, have more cognitive diminishment than nations, okay, what they call developing nations, poor nations. Okay, the poor nations are increasing, okay, in intelligence and you know, and what you call cognitive ability. Okay, and then another thing too, like, you know, just me speaking as a man, all right, which we know prophecy is, you know, the source of what we're seeing happening. But you deal with Iran and America, you know, with Iran being, of course, less developed, you know, they got digital technology, like I said, they got digital ID, you know, but the culture overall, you know, is a more organic, natural culture, okay, society. And those Iranians have way higher IQs than America, because you know IQ is not, you know, the end all be all of wisdom and intelligence, you know, but it's an indicator to a degree, you know, so it's not the end all be all, okay, but just going into how, you know, you see, you know, strategy, you know, versus winging it, you see, and it's a major difference, man. Okay, but that's just me, you know, speaking as a man. All right, the ability of critical thinking, and even amongst the leaders, okay, of these wealthy first world countries, okay, is on a poor level compared to those that are less developed. Okay, so let's go from there, and I'll put this in, and brothers want to tap into that. So while they're dumbing you down, all right, these devils are rolling out what you call smart cities. So while they're dumbing down the masses, okay, these devils are rolling out, all right, smart cities. You know, they got pilot, you know, smart cities. Okay, so let's go from there. Let's get this, and yeah, let's go here. So you got this in they just Columbus, Ohio. Okay, well, they're doing, you know, the trial runs with, you know, a smart city. Okay, so let's play this.
just to close, I wondered if you can describe Smart Columbus and how it's kind of as a test city for other smart cities in the U.S. It's clearly, I think, you make part of a broader nationwide trend.
Yes. So Smart Columbus is an initiative that was created by the Columbus Partnership, which, as I mentioned earlier, was created in the early 2000s by Wexner and his henchman, I don't know what else to call him, John Kessler. And essentially it was created to, yes, make Columbus a test case for smart city technologies and the implementation of various smart city programs, one of which is aimed at eliminating the use of private cars within the city of Columbus and moving sort of to these fleets of ride-sharing vehicles, Ubers, essentially, and potentially in the future, Waymos and things like that. And oddly enough, this directly intersects with an entity that I mentioned earlier, the U.S. National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence, which was led by Eric Schmidt. And one of the goals of that commission, though not in their final report, but in documents of theirs that were obtained by Freedom Information Request, was their belief that in order for the U.S. To compete with China in artificial intelligence, which of course to them was of prime national security importance, it was essential that private car ownership be phased out and replaced with these ride-sharing fleets of Ubers, essentially, or eventually autonomous ride-sharing vehicles. As necessary to train and improve AI in order to compete with China. And so, essentially, Smart Columbus was a test case for that, or is looking to promote those types of initiatives, which they've done quite gradually. It obviously hasn't gotten to that point in Columbus, but essentially the goal of this other Columbus Partnership connected entity is to have those kinds of things happen in Columbus specifically, and basically use it as a beta test for these technologies that are designed by, Silicon Valley, or, in the case of the US and NSCI, military related figures as well, to have that essentially be beta tested in Columbus without the people of Columbus really having any input into that process at all.
What they're building is a kind of totalitarian capitalism, isn't it?
You could say that in a way. It's interesting to point out that a lot of these oligarchs that swim in these same circles as Peter Thiel, take Mark Andreessen, for example, is the author of a document that he calls the Techno-Optimist Manifesto. And one of the main influences, he says, for that paper is a quote-unquote philosopher by the name of Nick Land, who's quite popular also in the neo-reactionary movement. And Nick Land argues that capitalism is a type of AI, and that capitalism is also God, and thus AI is God. And Mark Andreessen kind of reflects those ideas in his writings, and these ideas are pretty much very popular with the same people who are interested in Curtis Yarvin's ideas of privatizing the state and having it be led by a CEO dictator, which, as I mentioned earlier, is of interest to Peter Thiel and some of his allies, which include Andreessen. So essentially, like I said earlier, I think they're building it out of the sense that they want to they're essentially creating, I guess, a new model of feudalism, but enforced by technology, where basically there's a class, an upper class, and then a large underclass, and having that be enforced by technology. And one of the favorite historians of these big tech oligarchs that they've done interviews with, sit downs with him, like one with Mark Zuckerberg, for example, is Yuval Noah Harari. And he has argued that in this era of, AI and the data center push and all of this that we're living now, but he said this several years ago, that in contrast to the Industrial Revolution of times past, where it was the unexploited versus the exploited, now for, you know, the vast majority of people, it will be exploited versus expendable, and it's better to be exploited than expendable. And so, you know, as AI is taking jobs from regular people and all of this being led by organizations that, you know, it must be a sick joke to call it Jobs Ohio. You know, we're basically living in an era where these people are attempting to build a very anti-human future, and they see capital as the most important thing to you know, support and guide and nurture. You know, people and humanity in general are secondary to the progression of AI, which a lot of these people, as I mentioned earlier, see as directly connected to capital, and for, you know, is essentially you know, deified by these people. And so we certainly cannot live in a world like that.
Yeah, and like she said, people are secondary to the progress of AI. Okay, that's why, you know, water to cool these data centers, okay, is more important than water for farmers. Okay, water for, you know, drinking water. Okay, and water for essential purposes. No, water for the data centers are more important. Okay, and then as she mentioned, all right, that these you know, these tech guys, okay, they want AI to govern, you know, the masses as God. Okay, they want AI to govern the masses. They want to dumb you down. Okay, herd you into these smart cities. Okay, where AI governs your every move. All right, you don't own a car. Okay, you will be you know, everything you do will be allowed. You know, you'll be allowed to get in the car and go somewhere. Okay, ain't no just picking up and driving. You know, you stay in you know, Dallas. Okay, you want to take a trip to New Orleans? No, no more of that. You'll be confined to these smart cities, which would be nothing but, all right, open air digital prisons. Okay, so they're dumbing people down, you know, getting them addicted to this technology, and then presenting this technology as a utopia. Okay, but it's really a digital prison. Okay, so they're dumbing people down while building smart cities where the cities think for you, just like AI thinks for a lot of people now. Okay, people's smartphone think for them now. That's why it's hard for people to function without the phone. You know, a lot of people are so dependent on the AI that they can't function without it. Okay, so he's creating this cognitive dependence on this technocracy, you know, and so he's just going to build a whole city that thinks for you. Okay, tell you how much, you know, tell you how many calories you have, what food that's available for you. Like I say, where you can go, programmable money that's also limited to certain areas. Okay, you know, and this is what these devils are on, man. This is the Esau's wet dream, is to have a society, okay, where people, you know, are plugged into these smart cities, okay, and completely compliant with his agenda. All right, because who controls the AI controls the behavior modification of the people. Okay, so he wants people submissive to AI technology, and he's at the top controlling the technology, and he's able to make it, you know, he's able to customize it to whatever behavior modification he wants, man. Okay, now let's go from there. Let's segue. Okay, because you have this happening, you know, so while he's trying to, you know, while he's, you know, doing this thing, you know, with you know, with, let's say with the enchantments, with the dumbing down the masses, with, you know, these pilot, you know, smart cities, you know, that he wants to scale out, you know, all throughout America, all throughout the world. You know, you have with this war constantly going on, you know, and this war really has a timer on Esau to where he gonna have to come on with it. He gonna have to speed this thing up. Okay, so let's go here. All right, you have, you know, this is a running joke in the world. You know, this situation with, you know, this aircraft carrier USS Abraham. Okay, this is becoming a running joke in the world. Okay, if a brother want to put that uh, what's this book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, and I think is it 16, Bobby Shah?
Super carriers in the Persian Gulf are reaching out to Aaron Parnas, who's affiliated with the Midas Touch. The families of our U.S. Navy sailors and our Marines aboard the super carriers in the Persian Gulf are reaching out to Aaron Parnas, who's affiliated with the Midas Touch Network. He also has his own YouTube channel, and they are sharing horror stories with Aaron Parnas. We have text messages from the families of our service members aboard these super carriers. We also have messages from our Navy sailors and Marines aboard these super carriers. Let me read to you some of them here. This is some of the messages that Aaron Parnas has been getting. My husband said it's worse than COVID, and he was on the USS Roosevelt when we lost our amazing captain. Please keep this anonymous. Sailors have lost so much weight, 50 pounds. Some are working 20 hours without breaks. Someone else wrote to us, my husband is on board, and he and many others who work shifts have been getting less than 5 hours of sleep a night for months. It's not just the lack of food, lack of water, it's everything combined. I have been so worried about his mental health and physical health since the war started, and it's just getting worse. More exclusive reporting from Aaron Parnas. He's been reaching out and speaking to service members aboard these super carriers like the USS Abraham Lincoln and the USS George H.W. Bush, which are currently part of the so-called blockade in Persian. Why isn't there any milk? So the supply ship that bring they're frozen. Sometimes it gets here rotten, repulsive. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be a text thread, all right, that he's reading. All right. The nigga needs some milk out there, man. Okay. The nigga losing weight. The nigga's musty. Okay. It's turning to the Hunger Games out there, man. Okay. On the aircraft carriers, man. These nations are watching this and like, what the hell is going on with America, man? Okay. We're watching America fall from empire status. Okay, real time. Okay, this is a goddamn embarrassment, man. Esau, Edom, not only America, man, but the elites themselves are going to go out in a very embarrassing fashion with this whole agenda. You know, the elites in the background, they few moves they got left, you know, the crisis they're going to bring, you know, more shutdowns and lockdowns and, you know, power outages, you know, false flags, and, you know, black swan events. They in the background with they few moves they got left. All right, but they're going to lose as well. They're going to fall on their face as well. Okay, but they threw the American empire out there. Okay, and it's going bad. It's getting worse, man. You see? So let's play a little more.
Families are just as frustrated as the people on the boat. This is coming from somebody on the Abraham Lincoln, by the way. Their boat goes through the same. Even people that have been deployed 100 times claim to be the worst. And I believe it can get worse than this. The Navy does not care. The mission will always come first. I was talking to some random dude at government is doing to see how far can they push sailors' limits of being out to sea with the worst experience. I don't know anymore. I know my family needs me, and the Navy is not being fair right now, taking me away far longer than expected. Worst part, my expectations were already at an all-time low, but as per usual, the Navy beat those two by going lower than hell. So there's that. Lower than hell is what our Navy sailors and Marines are saying about their experience aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln, as well as the USS George H.W. Bush. We've got reporting there as well. Also over here, we can see some of these messages from our sailors showing the food that they're eating. Hey, honey, I'm eating cereal right now. Wish there was milk, though. Haven't had milk in 3 months. No milk because the U.S. doesn't have the logistics to bring over milk, to keep it fresh, or to really bring over any food other than some frozen meat, and our service members are not.
And you know these other nations' militaries are looking at these niggas like, how soft are these niggas, man? You know, showing, you know, sending pictures of cereal with no milk and Tupperware. These other nations are looking at how soft are these niggas, man. All right, these Western matriarch babies. Okay, let's play a little more.
So service members are losing 10, 20, 30, 50 pounds by the Trump regime. So hat tip to Aaron Parnas. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. I'm going to bring him in just a moment so we can hear from him directly about his exclusive reporting. Make sure you subscribe to Aaron's YouTube channel. Aaron's always getting the breaking news, and he's breaking a lot of enterprise stories himself. Yesterday, of course, we reported here after the Military Times was first to report how there were multiple sailors aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier that have tried to jump from the ship during.
Yeah. You gotta say that in Pop's voice on Friday. You better put some water on that shit. Golly, boy, this is goddamn Saturday Night Live skit, you know. Oh boy.
It's been out to sea for nearly 9 months now, over 8 months, and the morale is so low that there are many service members, sailors, and Marines who have actually tried to take their lives by jumping overboard right now. I mean, really tragic situation there. We previously reported about the conditions aboard the USS Gerald Ford, which was out to sea for over a year, one of the longest deployment ever, basically, the USS Gerald Ford. Remember, on that supercarrier, it ended up returning sometime around May, but there was that horrible fire that purportedly began in the laundry room, which almost killed 1,000 service members, and it resulted in their beds and their sheets all being burnt, so they had to sleep on the floor. There was also horrible conditions in terms of the food and in terms of the plumbing. There was lots of kind of leaks all over the floor, rotten showers, the same types of things we're seeing, by the way, on the USS Abraham Lincoln. Also an experience that we're hearing aboard the USS George H.W. Bush. Aaron got the following message as well. I love your TikToks, Aaron, and I really appreciate the information that you make available. I've been seeing a lot of your posts about the USS Abraham Lincoln, and my husband is currently on the USS George H.W. Bush. He has confirmed multiple times that they haven't had fresh fruit or vegetables over there. And so while you have people like Hegseth and Rubio who are out there, saying, Biden was focused on gender and climate, and now we're no longer woke. Because you go woke, you go broke. No, you go Trump and Hegseth and Rubio, you go broke. You all went through $1 trillion of our military budget and $10 trillion since 2016. You ran out of weapons. Our strategic petroleum reserve has hit tank bottom. We're under 300 million barrels right now in our strategic reserve. You have Donald Trump, the so-called commander-in-chief, a coward, hiding in cafeteria catering trucks because he was terrified that Iran was going to blow it up. And you have our service members with all-time low morale aboard these supercarriers, also incredibly low morale in the bases, which basically all in the Middle East had to be evacuated because they were in these these containers. They basically lived in these like trucking containers that were just kind of sitting targets for Iran. I mean, the treatment at the bases was horrific as well. And then when our service members were injured and suffered traumatic brain injury, the Trump regime said minor injuries, TBIs aren't a big deal. It is so damn horrific. This should be the biggest story right now.
Hey, Trump said niggas just had a little headache. You know, niggas getting hit with hypersonic missiles. You know, Trump chalked it up to a headache, man. You know, and then you had this incident where you know, Trump had to be removed from Air Force One, you know, to a smaller jet. So he had to ride in a catering truck, you know, because, you know, it was rumors that you know, that they had shoulder fire rockets ready, you know, to take down the Air Force One, you know, because if they're able to take down those refueler jets, you know, with those shoulder fire rockets that they got from China, okay, you know, they can take down, you know, the Air Force One is a big target, but you know, so you got, you know, like you say, he called Trump a coward. You know, you had that incident, man, and you know, it's just bad. It's just bad all the way around, man. You know, and these nations are just getting emboldened, just looking at this debacle of an empire, man. Okay, and these nations just getting more emboldened. Okay, you had Russia. I think Russia sent some threats to Japan. You know, I think Putin went to Japan. You know, swagged up like he run the joint. Okay, you know, complaining about how Putin came through. You know, and then Putin, you know, real Putin like, well, see, what you gonna do about it? You know, and that's the spirit that's out there, man. You know, the spirit of war. So let's get this. I'm gonna get a couple of these precepts as well, man. All right, niggas complaining about sleeping on the floor. Them niggas wanted to go on the Carnival cruise. If you want the Carnival cruise, nigga, just book the Carnival cruise, nigga. You know, you're at war, man. That's soft as hell. Okay, niggas complaining to their mothers and their wives. But wait a minute, I'm gonna get some of these precepts. But this the spirit these niggas been in before the war. Okay, remember this spirit.
Talking in your sleep, I know you want to cry all night. Shouting, falling, dreaming, talking in your sleep, I know you want to cry all night. Shouting.
Cook. Okay, and there's a spirit you niggas. All right, the American military has been in. Let's get this. Okay, this is your front line. And like I say, these niggas ain't even got. It's not abstinent. These niggas ain't got to the fight yet. You know, these niggas ain't even got to the war. Okay, and these niggas crying, man. You see, but this is what America has built. You know, and that plays a part into all this goddamn TikTok and scrolling and social media. You see, this is what it breeds. This is all America can produce. Okay, these type of niggas, man.
Created. It's problems that are being solved.
Well, look, let me tell you, as a combat veteran with 2 tours in the middle.
Yeah, through, man. Okay, that's what the American military, because they depend so much on the Air Force. You know, AI. You know, the shock and awe campaign. You know, they just come in and overwhelm you. You know, with a week's worth of bombing. You know, and they're used to these nations being through after that, man. Okay, but now they're uncharted territories, man. Okay, where they're in the dogfight. Okay, so let's get a couple of these precepts, and I got one more video I want to get into, man. All right, let's see, brothers. Got it loaded up. It's the brother servant self, Yahushua 144. It says, "Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory, man. You know, and America is a great embarrassment, man. That whole 250 thing, you know, the 250th birthday, that whole ceremony was absolutely atrocious, man. Okay. You know, you had people coming in on a parachute, you know, crashing. Okay. Nobody was there. Okay. The performances were just, you know, all over the place, man. And they're just the Lord, all right, putting shameful spewing on this, man. The American leaders, all right, known as the Epstein class. Okay. So they're, you know, they have their stigma, okay, of PDF files and Satanists. Okay. And it's just shameful spewing all the way around. Now, all right, the military, okay, it's been looked at as a joke, man. You know, the Lord has this place exposed, man. All right. This is the brother GMS per always hopeful elect, the brother Corner Waff. Nahum 3:5, it says, behold, I am against thee. And this is what we have to understand. The Lord is against thee, against America, man. Okay. The Lord has a master plan above whatever the elites got going on, man. The Lord's against America. He's against the elites. He's breaking all this shit up, man. Okay. It says, behold, I am against thee, said the Lord of hosts. I will discover thy skirts upon thy face. I will show the nations thy nakedness and the kingdoms thy shame. Okay. So we're seeing, you know, the Lord has America on main stage. Looking like a goddamn fool, man. Looking like a clown, man. Okay? Embarrassing America, man. And it only gets worse, man. You see? In every aspect, man. It only gets worse. Verse, all right? You got a $20 billion aircraft carrier. All right? Well, nigga ain't got no milk, no apples. Okay? They sleep on the floor. He through. But see, you people, here it is. Look how, all right, you're treated in the country, and you think that you go in the military and you're going to get some great treatment. No, you're just cannon fodder, man. Okay, for the agenda of the elites. The elites will run through, all right, 50 million Americans just to get control of Iranian oil. They won't care if 50 or 80 million of the American people died, you know, to get control of the Iranian oil. You're just cannon fodder, man. Okay, for an agenda of the elites. Okay. This is Nahum 3:6. It says, and will cast abominable filth upon thee and make thee vile and will set thee as a gazing stock, man. So America's a gazing stock, man. Okay, America's a running joke. Okay, a has been. Okay, a washed up. Okay, it's over with. You see? So let's I got one more video I want to play. Let's go here. Yeah. So now you got, cause see, as America, you know, has this soap opera going on with, all right, their aircraft carrier. See, Iran's still over there getting work. Okay, America don't care if Iran don't care if America don't stop swinging, nigga. We still swinging. You know, America told Iran, Iran told America, nigga, you don't decide when it's peace. You know, you ain't got that control no more. Okay, so let's play this.
In a stunning claim that has emerged online, Iran has allegedly targeted a hotel in Iraq's Kurdistan region that houses American troops. According to unverified reports, a hotel in Erbil, allegedly housing U.S. military personnel, was targeted with missiles and drones by the Iranian military. Russian state broadcaster RT published this information on its X account. However, these claims have not been independently verified, and there has been no official confirmation from U.S. authorities. The incident is also being described as the first operation of Iran's newly restructured Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC. Meanwhile, Kurdish authorities said they successfully intercepted the drones. According to the Kurdistan Counterterrorism Service, coalition forces intercepted 3 bomb-laden drones between 2:17 a.m. and 2:25 a.m. The statement said all 3 drones were shot down before reaching their targets. Earlier, Al Jazeera reported that drone debris fell on a residential complex near Erbil International Airport. Local media also reported that Iran's intended target was a U.S. military base located near the airport. The latest attack marks yet another escalation in a region that has repeatedly found itself caught in the crossfire of the U.S.-Iran confrontation. From late February until mid-June, the Kurdistan region endured hundreds of drone and missile attacks, many of which Kurdish authorities attributed to Iran and Iran-backed armed groups. The attacks briefly subsided after Tehran and Washington signed a memorandum of understanding in June, but the calm did not last. Hostilities flared again in early July, and since then, attacks on Erbil and other parts of northern Iraq have resumed. According to the new region, drone and missile strikes since the conflict began have killed at least 32 people and injured 154 others across the Kurdistan region. Earlier, Iran's military claimed it had dealt a devastating blow to the U.S. presence in Erbil. Iranian army spokesman Brigadier General Mohammad Reza Akraminia said almost all U.S. military infrastructure in Erbil had been destroyed during the recent conflict. He further claimed that anti-Iran groups operating from Erbil had lost their ability to conduct operations. Akraminia also warned that Iran is prepared to resume military action if fighting reignites. The Americans cannot impose their will on the Iranian nation through aggression action if necessary. As tensions once again rise over Iraq's skies, the latest drone interceptions underscore a sobering reality. Erbil remains one of the most volatile flashpoints in the growing confrontation between Iran and the United States. On August 10th, Iran's supreme leader Mojtaba Khamenei appointed 6 top military commanders, formalizing parts of a wartime leadership structure that operated for months without decrees, while leaving several sensitive intelligence posts without publicly named permanent chiefs. Khamenei also formally appointed Ahmed Wahidi as commander-in-chief of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and promoted him to the rank of Major General. Mustafa Izzati, the former commander of the Cyber and New Threats Headquarters of the Khatam al-Anbiya Central Headquarters, was named deputy.
Yeah, man. So basically, just to sum it up, Iran, is set up for full-time war. These men that they're putting in place, these are all men, okay, what you call hardliners. Because Iran will usually have a balanced, lineup of, generals and, certain heads of, heads of the military. Some will be a little conservative, some will be more hardline to kind of balance it out. But now, they're reporting that everyone's hardline now. The lineup that Mojtaba just put in, 3 days ago, they say everybody hardline. Everybody with the offense, they're like, we're gonna stay on offense, so he put an offensive, lineup, in the top ranks of the military, man. Now when you go here to the comment board, all right, you go to the comment board, man, and it says It said, do your due diligence before staying in a hotel anywhere in the world where Americans are housed. You might die. All right. All right. It says, soldiers no longer living on base, but in posh hotels. Okay. Damn. You see? After more restraint. Yeah, man, it's just, you see people laughing, thumbs up, people cheering for Iran, man. Just shameful spewing, a gazing stock. Okay, American just a gazing stock, man. Okay, a joke, big payback, James Brown. You see? Easy. So yeah, man, these U.S. military personnel, even in these hotels, ain't safe, man. You know, Esau becoming this Chase Row. You know, but yeah. So let's go from there. Let's get this in the book of Psalms. You know, so we're watching, you know, we're watching the empire lose its empire status, okay, real time, you know, and it's all the will of the Lord, okay. And these elites, you know, they're in the background, all right, going, you know, they're gonna have to go for their move. You know, they're gonna have to come out of the shadows, you know, and go for their move, and they're gonna be through too. They're gonna end up in slavery, you know. So this is Psalm 75 and 4. It says, I said unto the fool, deal not foolishly, and to the wicked lift not up the horn. Okay. And this is exactly what Esau would do, because we know Esau is known for doing the opposite of what the scriptures say. You know, this man has dealt foolishly with his rulership. Okay, and he lifted up his horn, which he's exalted himself in his power. You know, it said, lift not up your horn on high, speak not with a stiff neck. Yeah, so the Lord has given this man the power. But Esau, you know, he moves as if he's empowered himself. You know, and he moves as if he's beyond judgment, man. That's him lifting up his horn, lifting up his power. Okay, like he's above judgment. For promotion coming neither from the east nor from the west nor from the south, which promotion doesn't come from within the earth. Okay, a nation, all right, the decision for a nation to rule doesn't come from within the earth. You know, it comes from the heavens, and then things play out on the earth, you know, to allow a nation to come in power. But ultimately, it's ordained from the Most High. Okay, that's why I say, but the Most High is the judge. He put it down one and set up another. So we're seeing, all right, one empire being put down. Okay, and we're seeing what's going to be set up is the kingdom of Israel, man. All right, the throne of David. Now the elites think they're going to set up a technocracy. No, absolutely not. Okay, it's going to be destroyed along with the American empire. Technocracy is going to be destroyed with the American empire, man. Okay, when America is destroyed, there's no more technocracy, no more, all right, a new world order ambition. That's over with. Okay, the Lord's going to put down, all right, the complete authority of Esau, Edom. Okay, America is just on the front line, on the main stage, but the Lord's going to put down the complete authority of Esau, Edom, and set up, okay, the kingdom of Yahweh, man. Okay, which is the kingdom of Israel and righteousness, man. All right, it says, for in the hand of the Lord there is a cup, and the wine is red, it is full of mixture, and he poureth out the same. But the dregs thereof, all the wicked of the earth shall wring them out and drink them. But I will declare forever, I will sing praises to the power of Jacob, man. So now we're seeing, you know, Esau, he's having to drink of that cup. Okay, he has to drink of a cup of losing his empire, going into captivity. Okay, this is the cup that the Lord is forcing Esau to drink in front of everybody, man. You know, and he's gonna have to drink the dregs, which is the worst part of it, man. Okay, so yeah, we'll leave it there. All right. You know, Lord will. All right, you brothers. All right, and you few sisters edified once again. I want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem Makakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessing salutations to the whole collect. Shalom.